Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And before we get into the show today, sorry we missed a couple weeks. One week you were actually out here visiting, and the less said about last weekend when we usually record, the better. But any particular highlights of your visit to the City of Angels?
No, man. All of it was a blast. Definitely the going to see the Spasmatics, which for those that are not familiar with them, they're an 80s cover band that are absolutely amazing. And that was definitely a good time. But everything, man, the miniature golfing, the going out to breakfast, everything.
Good to hear. Um, Changing subjects a little bit. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. So I know it's a little off topic and it's not quite 80s, but the other day I saw the movie Rollerball, and I don't think I've ever seen it. It's in its entirety since I saw it as a kid. And I remember my parents taking me, I swear it was a drive-in movies to see it. The movie came out in 1975, meaning I had to either be 6 or 7 when I saw this movie. And oh my God, was this movie fucked up. I was watching it going, huh, and my parents let me see that. Do you have any experiences like that where you're like looking back at like something your parents let you do and you're like, they were insane?
No, my parents were really conservative as far as movies went. They didn't actually, I never went out to go see a movie with them ever. So I do remember seeing Rollerball on Channel 2, which for a time did things uncut. And I don't know why or how that they did that, but you actually catch nudity and stuff like that on Channel 2. And yeah, that was a brutal movie, man. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I have to go back and check it out again.
How old were you when you saw it?
Oh man, maybe 10.
Okay. But see, you were sneaky, and my parents actually took me. I was like, what the hell? There's a few movies I rewatched that I'm like, I can't believe my parents took me to see this. So if anyone's out there and they had similar experiences, I want to know how old you were and what movie your parents took you to. And you're like, huh, probably not the best idea. Anyway, as you can see, based upon Lewis's shirt and my shirt, we're going to be talking about 1984 as This Is Spinal Tap. And you're probably going to say, how does my shirt relate to This Is Spinal Tap? This shirt is none more black.
Nice, very nice, very
You
well
like it
played,
there?
Antonelli.
Thank
Very
you.
nice, very well played.
You got to give a shout out to your buddy that recommended we do this, and I don't know who he is. So please.
Yeah, Michael Story, thank you so much for the subject on this. I can't remember. I think he went to Burrell with us. I know for sure that I went to elementary school with the guy. So,
I don't
you,
remember the name. Was he our age?
you're younger.
A year younger. Okay, that's maybe why, you know. But well, thank you, Michael. We appreciate the suggestion, and we liked it so much we're actually going to do it. Let's talk about This Is Spinal Tap. So I think one of the funniest things about this movie is the fact that I told Lewis about it to watch it. He watches it and he comes back the next day and he goes, "Yeah, I didn't really like it." You want to take it from there?
Sure. And yeah, and it was rolling around in my head. It was like, yeah, I didn't think it was awesome. Then I thought, well, it was okay. And by the time that I thought about it and talked to you about it, I think I said, yeah, it was all right. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. And then I kept letting scenes roll around in my head more and more and thinking, oh, this part was pretty funny. Oh, that part was pretty funny. And I eventually came to the conclusion that I really liked the movie.
Yeah. No, I think if I remember, my recollection of it is a little different. We started talking about it at work. I'm like, but what about this scene? And what about that? Oh, yeah, that was really funny. That was good. And finally, you're like, huh, maybe I did really like it. So, anyway, it is a rockumentary directed by Rob Reiner. Came out in 1984, starring Harry Shearer, Michael McKean, better known for Lenny as part of Lenny and Squiggy, which were most of us knew him from, um, and Christopher Guest. And the director, Rob Reiner, plays Marty DeBurgi, and it is one of the. It's such a great rockumentary. It was so realistic. A lot of people thought this was a real movie, including Ozzy Osbourne. different. He thought it was a real movie.
Like a real documentary?
He thought it was a real documentary about a real band.
Wow. Well, they sort of were, right? I mean, they actually, I'm assuming after the movie, put out, a CD and stuff. And so not in the correct order, but eventually that sort of, I guess, qualified, maybe, sort of.
But it's funny because you had like guest appearances, like for example, Billy Crystal as one of the mimes,
Oh
and
my God. Yes.
nobody quite, the fact that people were like, "This is real," and I actually heard Kurt Cobain, of all people, actually really enjoyed this movie and said most rock documentaries suck, but this is Spinal Tap is cool in his book or something like that. So even Kurt enjoyed this movie, except for Lewis, first time. But
I eventually
he
enjoyed it.
eventually joined. So I gotta ask you, there's a lot of great songs in this movie. Do you have a favorite?
Oh man. Um, Big Bottoms is probably way up on the top. Um, Stonehenge. Stonehenge it's actually a catchy tune. They actually all are. They did a really, really good job even with the songwriting. Hard to pick out just one, but those are the ones that float to the top of my cranium at this instant.
Big Bottom is really fun, especially because of all the bass, and you listen to the lyrics, and you're just like, "Oh my god, fantastic!" But I got to go with "Tonight I'm Gonna Rock You Tonight." I love that song, and we used to joke around in rehearsals, and we'd start playing that. Dun, 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 dun. Do the little hammer-on thing. Yeah, it's love that song.
Yeah, that's a really good tune. Give Me Some Money is also a pretty funny one. It's sort of at the beginning of their careers, but yeah,
Before they
the
were
move.
Spinal Tap. I would say it was iconic.
I would agree. I would agree. It was doubly iconic.
Doubly.
Doubly.
Doubly. Yes, yes it
I didn't
was.
even do that one on purpose.
Good job. Obviously the alcohol helped. I before we move on to Spinal Tap, I gotta mention this because Rob Reiner, we thought of him as Meathead, right, from All in the Family.
Right.
I don't know if there's a director that did more in the 80s and had just a perfect score in my book than Rob Reiner. Listen to what he did. Obviously, this is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, which I love, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and When Harry Met Sally. There is not a
Wow.
dud in that list. Every one of those movies is amazing, an absolute 80s classic across the board. He killed it.
Wow. I wasn't aware that he did all of those. Stand by Me.
That's why you watch this show. Okay. You watch this show to learn that kind of stuff, or you co host it and I explain it to you. But yes, all those Rob Reiner in 1980s. He didn't
Look
do
at
a bad
that, man.
movie. It was amazing.
Wow. Go Meathead.
Go Meathead. And he almost made it with The Jerk, which was 1979.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that close.
Cool. Nice little tidbit of trivia there.
That's what I do. I bring it. I bring it. Okay. We were off for 2 weeks, and now I got to bring it. By the way, the only reason we didn't do the show when you were out here was we were just having way too much fun, and we never got around to it. So
Yeah, that was pretty
there's
much
that.
it.
So we talked about favorite songs. You have a favorite line in the movie?
Oh man, I was like jotting them down frantically like 5 minutes before we started to record, and I've got a few of them here. And the one with like Billy Crystal, it's such an underrated, almost mystic kind of line, but I thought it was hilarious where he is the mime and he's training the other mime. He's all like, "Do the dead bird, do the dead bird." And mime is money, mime is money. Oh God, man, that was awesome. So that's definitely up there. Let me see. uh, David St. Hubbins. So St. Hubbins being the patron saint of quality footwear, that was up there for me. And also dusting for mom for vomit. That was
Testing.
also up there for me.
Yeah, because
How
because
about you?
he died of from vomit, not his own. You can't dust for vomit. Okay, thank God they have DNA now, because now you can actually figure out whose vomit it was. Unsolved mysteries. Now we can figure out who killed the Spinal Tap drummer, one of many that was killed. Um, I always, of course you want to go. This one goes up to 11. Is just iconic as could be. This one goes up to 11. But I gotta say, my favorite is when the Paul Shortino from Rough Cut comes out, and everyone's like, all thrilled to see him, and he's like this big star, and they're like, "Have you seen his album cover?" And they're talking about the fact that it's him being held down, and the women are whipping him, and it's like he's the victim. He flipped it, and they're like, "Yeah, there's just such a fine line between stupid and clever." Love that line, and it's absolutely true. There is such a fine line. But that I every time I see that scene, I'm just like, that's the scene. That's such a perfect scene, such a perfect line. And I didn't realize this. Pretty much everything in that movie was ad libbed. It
Really?
wasn't written down. This is all coming out of their minds,
Wow.
which I think is really incredible because all these guys came from a background, right, of improvisational theater and things like that. And since then they've done a lot of improvisational movies, especially Christopher Guest. But yeah, none of this dialogue was written. They kind of had a brief kind of understanding of what the scene was supposed to be, and they went with it, and that's what they came up with. So even more amazing to know that and hear these lines that are coming out.
That's insanity, man. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this again. Of course, I said about all of these movies that we do reviews on. One of the things I thought was just amazing, and you sort of touched on a couple of them, is that there are so many different well-known actors in here, and just little cameo shots like Fran Drescher and I can't remember the actor, but
Bobby
from
Blackman.
Bobby Fleckman.
Come on, Bobby.
And the gentleman, I can't remember the actor's name, but from Rough Cut, I think is what you said, Johnny Fever, the same actor.
Oh,
The,
Howard
the,
Hessman,
there,
yeah.
there you go. And then the one that sticks out for me is Harry Shearer because he does a lot of voices now on The Simpsons. And I thought it was a trip that he sort of did that transition. But yeah, lots of well-known
And I
actors in this
forget the
movie.
gentleman's name, the one at the hotel that checks them in. I remember him from, I want to say, not Good Times. What was the other one where they were the dry cleaners moving on up,
Oh,
moving
the Jeffersons.
Jeffersons? Yes, I remember him from the Jeffersons.
Oh, that's right. Oh
Yeah,
man, good catch.
I watched it earlier. I made through the whole thing. I tried, and then some things happened in life, and you're not expecting it, so I didn't get to finish it. But apparently because they were doing all this improv and everything, there's so much footage of it, and I just found this out today through research. There is a bootleg that floats out there, and there is a 4.5 hour cut of this movie.
Oh my
Four and a
gosh.
half hours. Yeah.
Oh, that's I gotta find that.
That's what I'm thinking. A bootleg version, 4.5 hours. I'm sorry, I'm gonna refill this bad boy. Um,
I thought it was while you're doing that, I thought it was awesome that Paul Schaefer was in there and Artie Fufkin from Polymer Records. Yeah, I'm Artie Fufkin. Just a lot of, like I said, well-known actors in these little bits. It's so really cool to go in and just and pick them out. And yeah, insane that they all did this all improvised. Crazy.
yeah, it's really, really incredible. So we talked about our favorite song, talked about our favorite line. I know this is gonna be really difficult. Favorite scene of the movie.
Oh man. The first one that comes to my head is and this is tough. This is really tough. I'm just gonna go with the first one that comes into my head. It's where they're locked in their pods, right? And I think they're doing Stonehenge, and they're all locked in their pods, and each one of them opens up, and then like one at a time, and one band member gets out of his individual pod, and the next band member gets out of his individual pod, and then Derek Smalls, the bass player, his pod doesn't open up. He's stuck in there playing bass. That's probably up there. Yeah, that's probably going to be my pick. But I'm sure that if I thought about it, that I could think of a lot of other ones.
I don't remember the song I was playing. I don't think it was Stonehenge because Stonehenge was actually my pick for my favorite scene, but it's when they're out there playing and they're talking and and the druids and how they danced and they bring down the Stonehenge and it's tiny and just the way they're looking at each other when that Stonehenge comes down is I die every single time I see that scene. I think that is hysterical. And just the way they're looking at each other and just like, what the hell is happening right now? And it was almost trampled by dwarves. So I don't think it gets much better than that. But there is actually, it's funny because I don't know if you were aware of this, but there was actually the reverse Stonehenge for Black Sabbath. Um, This movie was shot before they did it, but it came out after their tour. And I guess on the Born Again tour, they had Stonehenge, except they did the opposite. They made it so big that they couldn't even get it in most theaters. So, a lot of people thought that because of that, that's where they got it from. But they actually filmed this before Black Sabbath did the tour. It's just that the movie came out after the tour. But yeah, so they had a Stonehenge stage that was too big for it to be even performed or to
Very
be
funny.
utilized. So,
Very, very funny.
but yeah, I gotta mention that. But so, what did you think of Viv Savage's playing? We haven't mentioned Viv,
Viv Savage. Yeah,
keyboard player.
he was good. I mean, he uh he had an interesting look to the chap, but yeah, he was all right.
I always thought he kind of looked like a cross between like Vivian Can what what? I didn't say anything yet.
I know, but I go ahead.
No, he looked like a cross between like Vivian Campbell and Paul Shortino, who's actually in the movie. Why? Who were you thinking?
Uh, Probably like Andre the Giant and somebody and cross with somebody else. He had that like psycho eye bulging Marty Feldman look to him,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, definitely good look, good look.
All right. So you're a musician. Have you learned any of the songs from Spinal Tap?
I haven't, but I just bought a bass, so I'm gonna have to start learning big bottoms.
You break it out now. Let's try. Let's hear it.
But yeah, no, it's really a great movie, and yeah, the line with the doubly or the girlfriend saying, you guys are failing because you didn't record it in doubly, or she meant Dolby, and just got all kinds of scenes popping in my head where they got booked to play with with puppets, right?
That was filmed right here at Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Really, another thing
Yeah.
that's
So also known as
iconic
Wally
there.
World, also known as Wally World from National Lampoon's Vacation.
Wow.
I know it's kind of crazy. So, were you aware of this? There is a sequel that's going to be coming out next year.
I had heard that they'd been working on something, but I'd heard that a while back, and then I didn't hear anything else.
Apparently, it's still going. It's in post production now, and the plan is that it's going to be released in 2024 to coincide with the 40th anniversary of the original Spinal Tap.
Wow, that'll be interesting to see if they make it up to the standards of the original. Anytime they come out with a sequel, you worry about that it's going to suck and then sort of taint the original. I'm hoping that's not the case because this is an absolute classic.
Yeah, I am concerned too. I mean, 40 years is a lot of time, and I don't know what you could do with the heavy metal band 40 years later. I guess you'd ask Judas Priest about that, but I don't know what they're going to be able to do. So it'll be real interesting to see if maybe they're doing it as kind of a retrospective of their career and may have then like go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something. I Who knows? It'll be interesting, but like I agree, it's such a classic, and you don't want to taint that, and you really want to make ensure that it's up to the standards, which probably won't ever happen of the original. But you know, if it's a big letdown, it's certainly going to taint what our memories of the first one.
Right. Do you know if Rob Reiner is directing this one as well?
He is, yeah, he is.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it could be very, very interesting. So, the other thing I got to mention is as a tribute to Jimmy Page, right? The scene where Nigel Tufnell does his guitar solo and breaks out the violin instead of the violin bow. How awesome is that?
That was really awesome. That was really awesome. And the scene, I just thought of that this one, the Hello Cleveland, Hello Cleveland. You actually said that, once upon a time that some band actually experienced that, right? Where they got lost backstage and couldn't find the way to the stage.
I've heard. God, I want to say it was Aerosmith said it, but all those bands were such huge fans of the movie, and a lot of them have said like, God, it's like they were following us around. Like we always used to joke about it because we went through drummers like crazy, and we're like, oh, we're Spinal Tap. They spontaneously combust. And we kept losing drummers, out of all the members. So I want to say it was Aerosmith that did something like that. Um, but I'm sure others have done it too. But all those bands were saying at the time, like, that's truly a perfect portrayal of what it's like. That's why so many people thought it was real, because I think they just nailed it and how crazy it was. Because it's not that their audience was waning. I think it was just becoming more selective.
And when he brings out the violin and he's sitting there, like you said, it's not the violin bow, it's the violin, and he's using it as a bow against his guitar, and it sounds horrible. And he stops, he's like, oh wait, something's out of tune, and he tunes his guitar. He's like, oh yeah, that's much better.
The crazy thing about that is probably people would have been going nuts anyway, because the thing remember really early on is 90% of the audience are not musicians. And I'll never forget, I think it was I saw a concert one time. It was Riot, Vandenberg, and Kiss. And I mainly went because I wanted to see Riot and Vandenberg, but the people I went with wanted to see Kiss, so I stayed. And I'll never forget, Adrian Vandenberg did one of the most beautiful guitar solos I've ever seen live, where he started off with an acoustic, brought out his Les Paul, started ripping on that, and people were like, golf clap. They weren't really that into it. And then Kiss came on, Vinnie Vincent. I think they had the makeup still, if I remember correctly. I'm not quite sure of the timeline. But man, all he did was like hit the vibrato bar like crazy, and do stuff like, hammer-ons, pull-offs, and hold his hand up, stuff that would be easy for most, halfway decent guitar players. People went absolutely nuts. And I was like, okay, it doesn't really matter. You're not playing to the musicians in the crowd, you're playing to the audience. And they just, what they see, or the visual and what they hear, they think it's kind of cool, they'll go nuts. The amazing guitar playing kind of got overlooked. So it's a fine line between stupid and clever. So there was a subplot that they cut out, which I'm wondering if I'm sure they're gonna have footage of it in that 4.5 hour not director's cut, but bootleg. Um, did you ever notice in the movie how so frequently they had cold sores?
Yes, yes.
So there was a subplot that I read about, and I remember hearing this back in the day too, that they had a plot with there was like an all-girl opening band, and all the members of Spinal Tap had hooked up with the lead singer, and that's why they kept having the cold sores, because they got herpes from the lead singer of the opening band. Well, see, a little bit more. You got to learn these
Nice.
things.
Nice, nice. I always assumed it had something to do with some sort of sexually transmitted disease, but That was always an assumption. Didn't know that there's actually this subplot in the background.
There actually was, and it just never, for whatever reason, I guess they decided to cut that from the movie. By the way, I think you need to stand up and model the shirt because I see the logo, but nice. It makes me want to smell the glove.
He was a tall blonde geek with glasses. Great look, great look.
Shark sandwich.
Shit sandwich.
Who wrote that? That wasn't real.
Wankers, the bloody wankers.
That's awesome. So I I feel like we've kind of exhausted our discussion about Spinal Tap. Now I want to go watch it again. Like I said, I watched it today. I only made it about halfway through, and then life kind of took some other turns, and I didn't get back to it. So I think I need to finish it. Is there anything else you want to discuss in regards to the greatest rockumentary of all time?
No, I think that it's really cool that Lenny knows how to play guitar as well as he does, and I thought it was really neat that it was sort of him and that character. And again, there's we could talk about the different lines in there forever. If you haven't seen it and you are inclined or interested in rock bands of the 80s at all, and you like comedy, check it out and give it a chance. Give it a chance because
Yeah,
it's very funny.
yeah. Don't be Lewis. Actually,
Don't be me.
don't be him. So
Don't write it off immediately.
if they came out and did a concert, would you go?
I think I would. I think I'd have to go.
I think you'd have to go.
I think I'd have to go, man.
All right. Well, I think I would too. It's kind of disappointing. I vaguely remember them touring, like a couple years later, and I don't know why I didn't go. I don't
Huh.
even, I don't even remember if they came to San Francisco or not, but I do remember them touring, and I don't know why I didn't go.
Yeah, that would almost be like a once in a lifetime opportunity type of thing or something where I would have to go just to say that I went, even if they absolutely sucked, just to say that I went and saw them.
Well, let's hope. So if they do come around, we'll definitely end up going to that, either in LA or San Francisco, one of the places. We'll go.
Sounds good.
Vegas. Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys as always for watching it. What was the gentleman's name again?
Michael's story.
Michael Story. Great call. You know, and then I looked at these Rob Reiner movies. I'm like, God, we could do an episode on every single movie he did in the '80s because they're all amazing. I love Stand by Me.
Maybe we should do that one next. I was just gonna suggest that's a really good movie.
Well, we've got a few things that we've actually thought about, so maybe that'll come up. Oh, and when you were out here, it's not '80s. I think it was like 91, 92. Lewis finally saw The Sandlot.
Yes. Yes. Great flick.
Yeah. What was your favorite? We'll never talk about because it's not '80s, but did you have a favorite scene from The Sandlot?
Oh yeah, it had to be the pool scene where the kid fakes like that he's drowning. That was like brilliant.
Wendy Peppercorn or whatever.
Squints.
Twins. Hey, even a couple of the guys from the movie were there, so that was a really cool thing.
It was a really cool thing, and for those that don't know what we're talking about, which is probably everybody, it
Probably.
was a thing in Southern California where they had this big projector screen up in a park, and you had a bunch of people out there in picnic chairs, and we just sat there and watched the movie. And they had a couple of the actors from the movie doing a Q&A session before the movie started, which was sort of neat. And yeah, I'd seen bits and pieces of it before, but I'd never seen it all the way through. So that was sort of cool to just sit down and watch it from beginning to end.
And food trucks. We had food,
And food trucks.
and we got to try. What was the alcohol we got to try? Was it Cutty Sark?
Cuddy, I think that was what it was. Yes.
Yeah, that was kind of embarrassing because the girl gives us free samples in this little cup of Cutty Sark, and she's explaining to us, like how much it costs and things like that, and it's a whiskey or whatever. She hands it to me and gives it to me and Lewis. We kind of cheers. Suddenly, I act like I'm a 22-year-old frat boy, and I just throw it right back down. I'm like, "Oh, that was bad. I guess I should have, guess I should have sipped this." I don't know why the little cup thing kind of threw me off, and I just went for it. It was kind of embarrassing, but that's all right.
Muscle memory, man. It's muscle memory.
Yeah, I was like, and then I'm like looking at Lewis, and he's like, took a little tiny sip of it, and he's savoring it, like swishing it around his mouth, like it's prime rosé or something like that.
Oh man. That was good. That was cool. And then they also had the what was it, the alcohol? It wasn't just I guess it was like an alcoholic beverage booth or something where they had drinks named after the different characters. And so, but yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time for
Yeah,
sure.
except when you almost spit yours on me, or no, it was mine. We tried each
I'll
other's
spit yours
drink.
on you, yes.
Yeah, you almost spit it back at me. I was like, what the hell is going on with this guy? Oh, look at that! What a beast! What a beast! All right. Anyway, I think this is getting out of control now, so we better end this.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you guys as always for watching. We're sorry we took a little bit of a break. Life happens, and they don't pay our bills. So anyway, I'm not wrong.
No, no, it's a
Um,
truism.
Let us know about Spinal Tap, Michael Story. Awesome call out. Let us know your favorite song, your favorite scene, favorite quote, whatever you want to let us know about Spinal Tap. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And please, 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 please validate my feelings. Let me know what movie your parents took you to that was completely, completely inappropriate. Also, my parents took me to this movie called The Incredible Melting Man. I watched that, not that long ago, and I'm like, oh my God, why did they let me see this? The next one I got to rewatch is my aunt took me to that Clint Eastwood movie, God, The Gauntlet. I remember seeing, boobs in that one. I think I was way too young, and that was a very violent movie. So there's a lot. No wonder I'm so messed up. I feel like I need to be like lying on a couch somewhere going, can we talk about all the movies my family members took me to when I was way too young to see this stuff? Like, I don't even think I took Jake my son to see an R-rated movie until he was like 15 or 16.
Hmm. Yeah, well, my parents never took me to any R-rated movies or G or anything.
But instead, you watch the scrambled cable for the half second where you might see boob.
Yes, yes, where you could sort of make out, yep, that looks like a boob. Yep, yep. All right. Great 1/2 second. Totally worth
Yeah,
sitting there watching a scrambled screen for 30 minutes.
for what we believe might have been a boob. Who knows? We don't know, but we sure tried. We didn't have a supercomputer that was our phone with us 24/7, so we had to make do. Thank God, man. That's a topic for another day, but thank God we didn't have that. Our childhoods were awesome.
They were. That would be a really cool topic, actually, sort of the pros and cons of technology and how we think it would have affected our childhood.
It
That would be neat
would have been made it a lot crappier, but yeah, that'll be
in
another.
some senses, but we'll leave that for another time.
We'll leave it for another time. Anyway, please validate me. Let me know what weird movie your parents took you to. Maybe I was the only one. Who knows? But something tells me I'm not. We were kids that were born. We survived the 70s and 80s. We were badasses, so nothing surprises me. Anyway, thank you guys as always for watching. We appreciate it. Hopefully, we don't have another break like this for a while, but we appreciate you sticking with us, enjoying this. Please, if anyone else has suggestions or Michael Story, you have another great one, put it in the comments. We'd love to check it out and hopefully we can cover it. And as always, Lewis, take us out, brother.
Peace out.
Turn it up to 11. Thank you guys.
In doubly.
In doubly.